All right, ladies and gentlemen, so let's get started, with today's video lesson. And today we're going to talk about the determinants. In this video, we're going to kind of just review some of the things that we discussed in class on how to find determinants, and what a determinant is. So, in a nutshell, to summarize, the determinant is pretty much the value, or the app says that it's defined as the absolute value of A. And what the absolute value of A refers to is pretty much that there's a real number associated with a matrix. And to find the determinant, 2 by 2 matrices and 3 by 3 matrices, we have a rule. And let's look first at how we would find the determinant of a 2 by 2 matrix. So assuming that we have a matrix with 2 rows and 2 columns, and we'll call it matrix A, B, C, and D. And what we are going to do is pretty much just multiply the value of A times D. So when we're looking for the determinant of the matrix, we say, well, the product of AD minus the product of CB. So basically, whatever value A is times whatever value B is, or excuse me, times whatever value D is, subtracted by whatever value C is minus whatever value D is. And we're going to look at in just a sec, we're going to look at some examples of how to find the determinant of a 2 by 2 matrix. Okay, so as I was saying, is the product of A times D minus the product of C times B. And let's look at an example. So in your book, you have example 1A, and example 1A has a matrix of 5, 4, 3, and 1. And I want to find the determinant of 5, 4, 3, and 1. So what I'm going to do is I am going to apply the rules of the determinant, and I am simply going to multiply 5 times 1 and subtract that by the value of 3 times 4. So here I write 5 times 1, and I know that the value of 5 times 1 is 5. And then I'm going to subtract 3 times 4, or excuse me, multiply 3 times 4. And then I'm going to subtract the two values. So 3 times 4, which is 12. And I have 5 minus 12, which equals -7. And that means that the determinant of this value is -7. But what do I do when I have a 3 by 3 matrix? So this is just a rule used for a 2 by 2 matrix. Next, we're going to see what we do, or the formula for a 3 by 3 matrix. So a 3 by 3 matrix, of course, refers to a matrix that has 3 rows and 3 columns. So let's say I have a matrix of, and here we go, A, B, and C would be our first row, and then our second row would be D, E, and F. And then our third row would be G, H, and I. So if I want to find the determinant of a matrix, I'm going to write the rule here, and then I'm going to explain what that means. Okay, So the rule for finding the determinant of a 3 by 3 matrix states that it will be the product of AEI EI plus the product of BFG plus the product of CDH. Minus and the parentheses are just there as to separate them, not anything specific, minus the product of GEC plus the product of HFA plus the product of IDB. And I know it seems very confusing, especially because you see a 3 by 3 matrix, and by looking at the formula, you see that there are more letters. So the question that you would ask yourself, or that you're probably asking yourself, is where did all these letters come from? And all I have A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, H, I. So whenever you're looking for the determinant of a 3 by 3 matrix, which is this, what you're going to do is you're going to add two columns. And the two columns that you're going to add in order to find the determinant are AB, DE, and GH. So and then we'll see an example. So what I'm saying is, now, just to make sure that everything goes well, we'll say, well, I'll add AB here, and then I'll add DE down here, and then I'll add G and H down here. And now that and this is the rule whenever you're looking for the determinant of a 3 by 3 matrix. And now that I have that done, I can go ahead and then just look at the formula. So it says A, E, and I, which is the product of A, whatever number A is, by whatever number E is, times whatever number I is. And then the other one says BFG, which would be the product of whatever number B is, by whatever number F is, by whatever number G is. And then, of course, we have CDH, which would be the number of C times whatever number D is times whatever number H is. And then we add that to GEC, and then let me use a different color for that. And that would be GEC, which would be this. And then multiply by HFA. And then multiplied by I, D, and B. And that's pretty much how we would do it. Now, let's see an example of utilizing or finding the determinant of a 3 by 3 matrix. And this is example 1B of your textbooks. And example 1B of your textbook gives us the matrix, the value of the matrix. Let me go ahead and the value of the matrix. 2, -1, and 3. So the first row is 2, -1, and 3. And the value of the second row is 4, 1, and 0. So that would be 4, 1, and 0. And the last row would be 5, -4, and -2. So 5, -4, and negative 2. 5, negative 4, and negative 2. So again, that matrix is 2, negative 1, negative 3, 4, 1, and 0, and 3, negative 4, negative 2. Now, in order to find the determinant, I need to take and add 2 columns to the right of this matrix. So I'm going to say 2 and negative 1, 4 and 1, and 5 and negative 4. Okay. And now that I have the other 2 columns, it is going to be very easy for me to find the determinant of this matrix. Okay. Today's class is pretty short and sweet. And okay, there's a mistake here. Let me realize it. I think I did this. I wrote 5 and it's 3. So let me clear that up. It's 3. And over here, we also have the 3. So now I can go ahead and just begin to 3 and negative 4. Okay, so there you go. So 3 and negative. So negative 2, negative 1, 4, 1, and 3 and negative 4. All right, so now that we have that, we can find the determinant. Let me go ahead and change the color real quick. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to multiply and just write the product. So we have 2 times 1, which is 2, times negative 2, which is negative 4. And that's going to be the first value I write down here. And then we're going to multiply negative 1 times 0, which is 0, and then 0 times 3, which is also 0. So this is going to be plus 0. And then we have 3 times 4, which is 12. And 12 times 4. Excuse me for a second, ladies and gentlemen. Negative 3. I forgot to write the negative sign down here. Give me 1 second. Pardon again the mistake. Just right here. This is a negative 3. Okay, so now we can continue with the process. So again, that would be 3 times 4 is, or negative 3 times 4 is negative 12, and negative 12 times negative 4 is 48, so plus 48. And that gives me the first part of the formula, of the rule. And again, I'm just going to write the parentheses, but the parentheses are going to be there as placeholders. They do not, under any circumstance, indicate multiplication, just making that clarification. So, and this would be minus, of course. And we're going to do the same thing, but now we're going to do the second part of the formula. So the second part of the formula, we would say, which the second part of the rule, 1 second, here is my marker. So we have 3 times 1, which is 3, and then times negative 3, which is negative 9. So we know that we're going to have negative 9. Let me go ahead and write the parentheses. Negative 9. And then we have negative 4 times 0, which is 0, and 0 times 2 is 2, is 2, excuse me. So this is 0, so plus 0. And then the last part that we have is negative 2 times 4, which is negative 8, times negative 1, which is 8, so plus 8. And now that we have everything arranged in the correct order, we can proceed to go ahead and find the determinant of this matrix. So if I have, let me move the taskbar down here. All right, so if I have negative 4 plus 0 is negative 4, and negative 4 plus 48 would be positive 44. So this would be 44 down here. Let me change that color. So this would be 44. And then minus. And then we have negative 9 plus 0 is negative 9. And then negative 9 plus 8 is negative 1. So this would be 44 minus negative 1. And that would equal to 45. So the determinant of that matrix is 45. Now, we can also use this determinant rule specifically for a 3 by 3 to find the area of triangles. And what I'm going to do real quick is I am going to actually write down the formula for the area of a rectangle, and then we'll see one example, and that will be the end of this video lesson. So if we're going to use the determinant to find the area of a triangle or a triangle specifically on a coordinate plane, and this is used a lot in cartography to determine coordinates of certain positions that are triangular, and by using the determinants of this matrix, we say that the area equals negative or plus or minus, excuse me, plus or minus 1/2, and we have three sets of coordinate planes, and we have a constant. Okay, so if we have three sets of coordinate planes, we'll call the first set x sub 1 and y sub 1, and then 1, because remember that when we're working with matrices, mainly ones and zeros are very common, so this one is just a constant in the formula. And then we have x sub 2, y sub 2, and that would also have a 1. And then finally, x sub 3 and y sub 3. And of course, 1, which is the constant. And the plus or minus sign indicates that it's going to be a positive value. So even if I look for the determinant and that determinant is negative, because I'm using the plus or minus value on the 1/2, it's going to be positive. So whenever you're multiplying by 1/2, and I mentioned this in class, you can multiply by 1/2 is the same thing as divided by 0, or multiplying by 0.5, or multiplying the number by 1, dividing it by 2, or dividing it by 2. So there is various ways in which you can determine or multiply or divide by 1/2. So let me make some space here so that I can read to you guys the story problem. And then based on the information given to us in the story problem, we can go ahead and find the area. And then that would be the conclusion of this video. So ladies and gentlemen, that being said, let's get down to the exercise. Let me just erase and make some more space here. And this is actually example number 2 in your textbooks, and it is on page 204. So let me go ahead and read the problem to you. And the problem in example number 2 says, off the coast of California lies a triangular region. Lies a triangular region of the Pacific Ocean where a huge population of seals and sea lions live. The triangle is formed by imaginary lines connecting Bodega Bay, the Farallon Islands, and Año Nuevo Island, as shown in the map. The coordinates are measured in miles. It says use a determinant to estimate the area of the region. So, according to the textbook, the coordinates that are given to us for Bodega Island, or Bodega Bay, excuse me, are -1 and 41. So we're going to say, and I'm just going to go ahead. So Bodega Bay, I'll just abbreviate it as, actually, no, I think I can do it this way. Give me one sec, guys. So for Bodega Bay, Bay, we will have um, the coordinate that is given to us for Bodega Bay, which we'll label or call our x sub 1, y sub 1 is negative 1 and 41. The second coordinate that we have is for Año Nuevo Island, and we'll just call it New Year's Island because I can't find is 38 and negative 43. So we'll call that our x sub 2, y sub 2. So 38 and negative 43. And for the Farallon Islands, the ordered pair is 0 and 0. So now that we have our coordinates, we can simply just plug them into the formula and estimate or find our determinants. So let's go ahead and plug in the numbers here. And the first number that we have in our determinant, so the first thing we're going to do is just like you would work with your order of operations, you would solve your parentheses first. Similarly, we're going to work with our matrices first, and we're going to go ahead and just plug in the numbers. So the first number, the first set of ordered pairs that we have are negative 1, which are the coordinates of the Bodega Island, negative 1, 41, and the 1 that is the constant of the formula. And then our second ordered pair for Año Nuevo Island, or New Year's Island, if you want to translate it, would be 38, negative 43, and 1. And then for the Fallon Islands would be 0, 0, and 1. So let's find the determinant of this matrix. And just like the rule suggests, that means I have to add the first two columns, so two additional columns, excuse me. So I'll say negative 1 and 41. And then you'll have 38 and negative 43. And then you will have 0 and 0. So now that I have that, I can find the determinant and we can essentially find the area. So let's get started. Our first one would be negative 1 times negative 43 times 1. And that, of course, would equal positive 43. I'm going to write the determinant down here, or on the left side here, on my left. So that'd be positive 43. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. And you have 41 times 1 times 0, which of course is 0, so 43 plus 0. And then you have 1 times 38 times 0, which of course is 0 as well. So 1, 38, and 0. And that would be plus 0. So now we're going to go ahead and find the other side. So minus. And then now we're going to do the same thing. Let me change the color of my marker here real quick. So we're going to say 0 times negative 43 times 1, and all this would equal 0. And this would be plus. And then you have 0 times 1 times negative 1, which is also 0. And then plus 1 times 38 times 41, which is 1,558. So 1,558. So now I can just evaluate the determinant. Well, basically 43 plus 0 is 43. Minus, and 0 plus 1,558 is 1,558. And we're going to subtract 43 minus 1,558, which equals negative 1,515. And what we're going to do now is, now that we have the determinant, we're going to plug it into the formula and find the area of the region that we're looking for. So I'm actually going to go ahead and clear this part right here specifically, and that'll give me some space that I need to find the area. So now that I've found the determinant, I'm going to find the area, and I'm simply going to say that that equals negative 1,518. And that would be negative 1,515 So now what we're going to do is we're going to multiply that by 1/2. Now remember that the plus or minus indicates that the answer or is going to be positive, or I'm actually going to read what it says according to your book, to not paraphrase it. But basically what it's saying is that the positive, the plus or minus symbol indicates the appropriate sign should be chosen to yield a positive answer. So meaning that I choose, what that indicates is that if it says plus or minus, I can choose whether I multiply it by positive 1/2 or by negative 1/2. Okay, that's what the plus or minus means. So obviously, if the determinant was negative, I'm going to say, well, negative 1/2 times negative 1,515 negative 1,515. And when I multiply that, remember, I can multiply it by 1 or divide it by 2 or multiply it by 0.5 or divide my answer by 2. It's going to give me the answer, the same answer regardless. So basically, if I'm multiplying negative 1,515 by negative 1/2, and the reason I chose negative 1/2 again is because the plus or minus indicates that I can choose either a positive value or a negative value in order for my answer to give me the appropriate or the approximated positive value. So I multiply negative 1,515 by negative 1/2, and my answer is approximately 758 miles. And that's how you determine the or find the area using determinants. So ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of this video lesson. Hopefully this will help you with your homework assignment and you guys will not have any doubts. So until our next class, go ahead and stay safe, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.